River Raid is one of the best games ever made for the Atari 2600 and helped put Activision on the map. But this version that I'm reviewing today is the Atari 5200 or 8-bit version. Personally, I own the 8-bit version, which I play on my 800XL or XEGS. I prefer to own and use the 8-bit version since I don't have to use that god-awful 5200 controller. No, you can use a standard Atari joystick with the 8-bit systems, which is great for a game like River Raid. The game was written by Carol Shaw and was originally released for the 2600 in 1982. Carol Shaw was one of the first female video game programmers of that era, and her work on River Raid is nothing short of spectacular. Interesting little side note, she originally wanted it to be a boat and not a plane, but it didn't look right, so she changed it to a jet. You start the game with 4 jets, and an extra jet every 10,000 points. Your mission in this game is to blow the crap out of everything in sight in your jet. A jet with what I assume has a huge hole in the fuel tank. The reason I say that is that you lose fuel at such alarming speed in this game that you must have a gash in your gas tank. There's simply no other explanation. And with gas prices the way they are, I wouldn't want to foot the fuel bill for this thing. Of course, this adds an extra level of excitement because you always need to keep an eye on the fuel gauge and make sure you fill up at the many fuel tanks along the way. A siren will wail if you drop below a quarter tank. Of course, as the game progresses, the fuel tanks become fewer and farther between, so extreme care is needed to not blow them up. The standard enemies are here from the 2600 version: tankers, helicopters, and jets. However, this version now includes tanks, and for some strange reason, hot air balloons? A war zone seems a strange place for a hot air balloon show, but hey, that's just me. The river is divided into sections, which are indicated by the bridges with the current bridge number shown on screen at the bottom right. And as I mentioned, in this version of River Raid, there are tanks that cross the bridge as well, which will net you extra points if they're on it when it blows. These tanks will also appear at the side of the river and will fire at you, so be careful to avoid the resulting explosions as they'll take you out as well. Graphically, this version of River Raid isn't that much different from the 2600 version, but the land has a more realistic look with its jagged edges compared to the 2600 straight, uniform terrain. The sound effects seem to be pretty close to identical to the 2600 version, which is just fine as they've always been very good. The control in the game is great. Banking, accelerating, and braking are simple, and the plane moves smoothly and responsively with a standard Atari 2600 joystick. And again, this is because the 8-bit version allows use of a standard joystick. Playing this on a 5200 with a standard 5200 joystick may be a frustrating experience, but I'll leave that for you to decide. One of the things I always liked about the control of River Raid is the ability to steer your shots. It makes the game a little easier and helps to pick off those enemies that are just around those corners. River Raid is one of those iconic video games of the past that everyone is familiar with, and is considered a must-have title if you're a collector. And even though there is little that's new in this version of the game, if you own a 5200 or 8-bit computer, you can't go wrong picking up a copy for that system. An excellent game is still an excellent game. Well, this is Atari Leaf saying thanks for watching as I take a closer look at River Raid for the Atari 5200 and 8-bit systems.